Good morning. Good morning. Oh, Mercury retrograde shadow. I don't know what I touched. Good morning. Oh, there we go. I don't know if that's, let's see. 1 second. I must have this somewhere. There. Maybe if I turn that off. There we go. And there. So I think that should be okay. If you are here with me this morning, good morning. Good Monday morning. I'm going to turn on the comments. If you are with me live on either Facebook or YouTube, go ahead and say hello. And if you are watching the replay, you can comment and say hashtag replay. I believe all the comments for both things would be below this video. If you are on YouTube, you can comment live if you're looking at your screen, I think it's on the right-hand side. Otherwise, below. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm going to reopen. I just had to close everything because I was like, oh crap, where's the echo coming from? We are in that Mercury retrograde shadow, and it will be happening in Taurus. So evaluations of relationships with money and people and pretty much anything. Because think of it this way, all of our retrogrades this year are in earth elements. First one is in Taurus. Then I believe Capricorn Taurus, then Virgo, then Capricorn. I think those are the 3 earth signs. If there's another one, let me know. But anyway, this year is going to be interesting because what that means is in this particular one, it's all showing up in what is the manifested stuff. What are we manifesting in our life that's coming out that we need to reevaluate? What doesn't serve us? Because whatever we're seeing right now is stuff that we thought about and created and brought into existence in this 3D last month, last week, last year, and does it still serve us? And I want to talk about that today. So I am so glad that you're here. I'm Soul Coach Michele. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're watching on Facebook and you didn't realize I had a YouTube channel, here it is. It's at Soul Coach Studio over on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe, like, click the bell, all the business. 2 things before we get started. This week, starting tomorrow, I have a free mini course happening right here called Learning to Love Your Shadow. And I am really excited that you will be there. I have several people that have already registered. You can register for reminders and to receive the replays in your email box by clicking on, let's see, I think it should be in the blurby thing. If it's not, if you scroll around, you'll see it. It's in the events in Facebook. If you are on the email list, you will be receiving the weekly email that has the links and everything in there. So just know that you can access that free course by registering and signing up if you haven't already done so. And it starts tomorrow. It'll be Tuesday at 3, Wednesday at 3, and Thursday at 3. And this is in April of 2023. If you're watching this later at some point in the future, because I always say, even though it's technically the weekly energy report for this week of April 10th, 2023, if you are called to watch this particular video, it's because you needed to hear whatever we're going to talk about today. And that also means that you can probably access the mini course in replay. So you can go ahead and look for it there. So anyway, I digress. Also, I am going to be starting a new circle. We finished our Akashic record journey. The next one of those will be in the fall, but this next circle is all about a fun and fascinating approach to working together for shadow work, to heal, to make your shadow your bestie so that you're not afraid of it anymore and you can work with all this stuff. Because I don't know about you, but March of this year was all about, it was like I was trying to keep all the stuff in the closet, the shadow closet, and then it burst open and everything went everywhere. And now we need to process it because it's time. It's time, especially with eclipse season coming. So with all of that said, let's get started. So the download for today that came through was about conscious choice making. And we all might say, well, of course I make choices all the time, but do we do it consciously? So what that means is I want to also touch on a word that is kind of charged because people tend to use it in like political news and stuff like that as trying to force people to feel a certain way. But I want you to take a different approach to it. Much like everything, take a different approach to it. So we're going to focus on some conscious choice making and what that means. And I'm looking at my notes because I just channeled all the things for the newsletter. I want to make sure I hit it. So this time we had a really big full moon last week. So I know in our household, there was a lot of releasing going on. And it was very like, "Mwah," all the way till I think yesterday was when, and now we're starting to feel better, right? As we kind of start approaching, going through like what's happening during Mercury retrograde shadow, because there was a lot of releasing or encouraging to release again choices. And then the themes that we're seeing in the shadow right now will be the main themes of what we are working on to say make choices about in the structures in our choices and relationships that make us feel good. And because we're in Taurus, we're going to be asked to review and look at the things that don't serve us, but because they're in our comfort zone, we still choose them automatically in a robot fashion versus looking at it and going, I know that's my comfort zone. I know that's my comfort zone, but it doesn't serve me anymore. So what does that kind of look like? What it looks like is we cannot do the yeah, sure, whatevering anymore with all of this stuff, especially with what's coming over the next month to 3 months. Okay. So this particular lunar cycle, the Mercury retrograde, we got two Aries new moons. The next one is going to be a biggie. Again, inviting Aries, which is self. And how am I being more and more authentic? Because that's the theme of the whole year. Just shedding till we step into authentic self fully, regardless of what other people think. Okay. And so, with that in mind, um, what does what doesn't serve you really mean? Because we throw a lot of new age platitudes around like, I now release all of that which doesn't serve me. Well, what does that really mean? Because most of the women that I work with are very spiritually hearted, but also analytically minded, which a lot of times can get in the way of doing this because they want to know, like me, I'm the same way as a Virgo. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I'm like, that sounds great. I would love to just be like that. Like the Pisces moon in me is like, just let the energy flow. It's fabulous. But if I can understand what I'm doing, it makes it a lot easier. So let's talk about what that means. What does it mean to let go of something that doesn't serve you? What does that look like? So I want to kind of talk about it in terms of a vocabulary word that is a little charged in our world right now. So I'm going to just read what I translated and wrote so that I can kind of just focus on that. So first, you got to understand what what doesn't serve you really means. And what doesn't serve you is all of our individual and collective beliefs around entitlement, what we are entitled to. Now, that word entitlement is thrown around a lot because it's thrown around a lot and utilized and weaponized as blame. And I want you to remove that energy from the word as we talk about it, because I want you to understand what entitlement really means, because it's not, I want it not to polarize you. I want it to empower you. So what that means is do not, I want to really make sure that we're going to talk about entitlement from the perspective of shadow archetype versus what out here says. So pure and simple, it is a shadow archetype feeling. What is emotion energy? Because I want to tell you my definition of it before we get all ouchy and weird about it, okay? So, entitlement to me and how I would like to have us all approach it from is it is a fear of change. And this is all downloaded that I got this morning from Spirit. Fear of change to the extent, I'm reading this that I typed, fear of change to the extent you blame external forces for your lack of truly understanding why you are afraid of the change that's around you, or being unwilling to be open to change because you can't control outcomes when change happens. So entitlement is really all about our low vibrational feelings around when stuff is like stuff that we like to control gets really clear that we can't control it. That's what entitlement is, like our response. Well, actually, it's our reaction. It's our reaction to it. A response is thought out and more felt into. So it's the belief that I'm entitled to everyone outside of me. Everyone outside of me needs to be doing what I want them to do so that I can feel better. as opposed to me saying, you know what, I can't control what you're doing. I can't control, like, even right now, I can't control who shows up and hangs out with me live. Like, hello, Sharon, but anybody else, I don't know. I can't control who watches the replay. But if I was going to get caught up and say, you know what, if I'm going to have a successful YouTube channel, I better have, you all better show up to make me feel good. No, I'm sharing this information because I am called to do so. That's what I can control. And I can put out there the energy that whoever is supposed to see this will see it, whether it be live or Memorex. Whoever is supposed to see it now or in 25 years will see this, period. That's the difference. Okay. So, with that in mind, it's really entitlement is about sitting in this energy of trying to control stuff and getting pissed off when you can't. So, example, and I'm just gonna use myself because I ain't no Buddha under the fig tree, honey. I am not. I mean, like, you can, if you want to sit down and have a conversation with Darren about how I am not Buddha under the fig tree, he will tell you all the things. So I ain't lying. But I do know what we're supposed to do, and when I do it, it works great. But if I sit in the other things, not feeling so good. So think of it this way. So I have like my little, schedule where normally on Wednesdays I go to the grocery store because Wednesdays is like double specials day, especially at Sprouts if you have a Sprouts. And it's when all the cool stuff comes out at Aldi, stuff that you don't think you need, but you think you need, all those fun things. And I love going there because you're in and out, 20 minutes, you're good, you're done, right? Until they decide to rearrange the store. And you walk in and you're like, um, wait a minute. The building is in the same place, but all the stuff is not. Like, I was gonna walk in and be my little robot self and unconsciously tick off my list and just go through because I know in my head what the store looks like every single day until today. And I'm in there and I have this moment of pissed offness because some genius in the C-suite decided, oh, you know what? I think we need to change up how the store looks. Maybe that'll increase revenue or whatever their thought process was. The good idea fairy showed up and dropped a whole bunch of good idea sprinkle dust on there and created this craziness in my life. Like, how dare you? How dare you change what aisle the butter is in? I mean, seriously, what kind of moron does that when it worked just fine for me? For me. Now, that's entitlement because I'm assuming mm, that when I show up somewhere that I can't control, that it will be exactly how I like it in my comfort zone all the time. And when it's not, I'm pissed because now it's going to take me longer and I might miss where my stuff is because normally it's here, but now God knows where it is because the NARS, not a rocket scientist, decided the butter needs to go in this refrigerated case instead of that one, and then they moved everything all around. I mean, it's awful. That's entitlement. Creating your own suffering because you sit in the fact that you are out of control and you're pissed off about it, and you're pissed off that somebody else made a decision that affected you in a way that you think was negative. And I'm using this because A, it's a true story because I've come home and then, of course I went on Facebook and I was like, can you believe, isn't it the worst thing ever when they swap up the grocery store? Yeah. So I amplified that shit. Bad, icky shit. But if I'm going to change, I got to stop blaming everybody in the C-suite over at the grocery store chain for me being slapped in the face with this change that I didn't want, but is there. Does it suck? Does some change suck? Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Some change sucks big time. But some change you might be uncomfortable with in the beginning and then realize maybe it's better. And we might even look for the blessing in the change that sucks. And change can show up in so many ways. Change can show up with, especially when we're talking about Mercury in retrograde in Taurus, change can show up in our earthly things. It might be a move, it might be a change of job, whether you get fired, laid off, or you decide. That's change. All three of those are change. Whether a person in your life leaves because they decide they want to move somewhere else or move on, or they transition to being an ancestor. I mean, all of that is change. So when I talk about change, I'm encompassing all of that stuff. And our entitlement causes our own suffering because we're expecting nothing to change. When if there's something that is perpetual in this human existence that we chose to participate in, it's change. So, how do we deal with this? How do we shift the entitlement energy, which is really just a control freak mechanism? It's just something, and entitlement, let's be honest, it shows up and sometimes it shows up internally where you have these thoughts like, I didn't Karen out at the grocery store and start throwing things and screaming at the manager. I had this moment of like entitlement where I was like, where's my eggs? They're not where they're supposed to be. Well, are they really supposed to be there? They're really supposed to be in a nest under a chicken. I mean, I'm pretty damn lucky that they're at the grocery store and I don't gotta go find a chicken. You know what I mean? And because they changed where they house the eggs in the store, and the store's not that big, I'm all upset. So, what do we do to kind of shift that entitlement energy? And I'm going to give you the answer is love and acceptance. It's the same for everything. Love and acceptance. And you need to also be in awareness, which is why I always say meditation helps increase awareness. It doesn't create no thoughts, which a lot of people teach. Clear your mind of thoughts. No, you think like a bazillion thoughts a day. If you cleared your mind of thoughts, you'd be dead. So, meditation isn't about emptying your mind, it is about becoming aware of what's in your mind and being able to sit in observer mode, which is the best place to be when we're doing this kind of shifting of energy. So, acceptance and forgiveness and love. That's the antidote to this entitlement energy that we all carry in our shadow. And if we can learn to love this part of ourselves, that in itself will help loosen this up. And you'll realize when it's happening, whether it be at the grocery store, whether it be because someone transitions, whether it be because someone cuts you off in traffic. Because I'm entitled to drive to work without some jackwagon cutting my ass off in traffic. But he did, and you couldn't control it. So what can I do? Maybe I'll pray for that person. Obviously, they need some help. Maybe I'll say, "Oh, maybe I'm supposed to be slower because there's something I need to avoid on the way in, and that person saved me." I don't know. But in this grocery store example, let's get back to that. So, do I really need to kind of figure out, because what it is, it comes from childhood stuff where we're like, I have to control the outside, or I have to behave in a way that controls other people and other experiences so that I feel safe. Instead of saying, well, I can choose to feel safe regardless of what's going on, right? Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. That's a good one that kind of exhibits that book. But in this example, let's use the grocery store. It's a little lighter. Do I need to sit down and figure out where in my inner child, which is another thing people do a lot, where in my childhood was I so traumatized that this is the behavior that I've embraced? Do I need to do that? No, because you probably know. I don't need to re-traumatize and revisit, but you do know the energy when it shows up if you're in awareness. Like I'm in the grocery store having a meltdown about the fact that some jackwagon in the C-suite decided to change floor plan. That energy is the same energy. My reaction, to that, is the same energy that created the other, that created the initial core thing, the root thing. So instead of looking at the situation, we look at the energy. And it's like, okay, this energy, if I'm in awareness, is causing me suffering. I'm sitting here being very unhappy, and that's no fun at all. That sucks. I don't want to do that. Hmm. So I'm going to use the stop, drop, and roll method because that's one of the ones that I really like. So what do I do this? I stop the thought process, right? Because if we're going to say clarity of thought, right? Clarity of thought up here, I'm in control of all of my thinking. No person, place, or thing has any control over me. I'm in that awareness and I can stop it and say, you know what? This person who created this change has no control over me. I get to choose if I'm upset about it, or I get to choose differently. So I'm going to stop and be in acceptance of the fact that the store has changed. I might have to take some more time. Where is my blessing in this? Where is my blessing in this with this new layout? What does that look and feel like for me? So I'm going to roll, I'm going to drop. I'm going to drop into acceptance and love. Stop in your awareness, be in awareness. Drop into acceptance versus resistance. And what does it feel like for me? If I can shift into acceptance. Okay, so the store is different. Might have to take a little more time. What can I do to make this fun? How can I roll with this? Okay. Well, what's the blessing here? If I'm going to go for the scientific route. Oh, well, this will help me increase my neuroplasticity because now I have to discover where all the stuff is. I have my list, so that I could control. I made my own list that I controlled. Now I got to be like Indiana Jones or Laura Croft, whoever your jam is, and wander through the store like an adventurer and an explorer with new eyes. And I get to see everything for the first time again. That's kind of cool. And what happens? And if you shop at Aldi, I love me some Aldi. Every week there's a new thing. So you might even see new stuff that maybe had been there forever, or maybe is new, but you never notice because you're in robot mode most of the time. Because you show up entitled to that grocery store being the way you think it ought to be, and has been forever in your comfort zone until today. But today, if I stop, drop, and roll, I can step into being Laura Croft, Tomb Raider, and discover all the cool stuff there. Instead of sitting there griping and bitching about how this store, how dare they do this. But the stop, drop, and roll is a conscious choice, which is the energy for this week. That's why I bring up this whole thing about entitlement and making choices, because entitlement is really just a manifestation of our control freak showing up when stuff doesn't go our way. And it creates our own suffering. And so when we choose to suffer, we can choose to thrive if we're in awareness. Stop being aware. Stop being your awareness. Think about, what am I doing here? I feel grody. I don't want to suffer anymore. Drop into acceptance and love and forgiveness of self, for, like how we talk about the Ho'oponopono. That's the drop into acceptance. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. I'm sorry that I've created my own suffering. Please forgive me for doing that because that sucked. Man, I love you, self. You're awesome. Thank you for this opportunity, for realizing and being in awareness of my energy and that it needed to shift so that I could feel better. This is all internal work. This is literally shadow work. That's not scary, is it? No, it's not scary. It's actually fun if we can create a fun way to do it. So as we go into this next couple of weeks and couple of months, we're going to have lots of these kinds of choices on a much more intense scale than this grocery store analogy. But I use it because it's a little more innocuous. But like I said, because we have Mercury retrograde in Taurus, and we have eclipse season, which is boom, boom, boom. And then you have, and this goes through, I think it's like June or something. And so just be in awareness. Try and stay in awareness and observer mode. It's going to be a little challenging because it's going to be very like boom, boom. And I'm going to say, last week, if you have not checked out last week's video on grounding and staying centered for the next couple of months, go ahead and make sure you check that out because it does give tips on how to do that. Now, one of the things that I have coming up is the circle experience, which is going to be 3 months for spiritually hearted ladies and women, ladies, women's, broads, whoever you fall into, for the 3 months. And also, I generally work with people who are analytically minded because that's my jam. That's who I am. That's what I'm dealing with. And a lot of times what happens is our hearts are in the right place and then our heads start asking questions. So how can we do our shadow work in a fun and fascinating way without having that crypt keeper feeling that I swear to God, I don't know about y'all, but every time I see somebody talking about shadow work, they scare the shit out of their copy is all or their videos. It's about, well, you got to do this deep work. You got to dig in there and find all the shit and get rid of it. And I'm like, well, yeah, but does it have to be like you're the crypt keeper from like Creep Show back in the day? I mean, come on now. Like I had one client tell me she was trying to do the work. And the reason she couldn't after 10 minutes was because the guy sounded like Vincent Price from, ain't the old horror movies, or who also did like the rappy part in Thriller. The thing is, you don't have to do that. If it's energy work, it makes it easy. And with a group, it can be fun and not scary. And plus, I'm going to invite you to work with your spirit guides and your shadow together so that you always feel safe when you're doing this. And that's why the circle is so important, because you're going to do individual work directed by you and your shadow guide, you're learning to nourish yourself so that you can work with your shadow in a way that's loving. But then when you come out of those individual journeys, you're back in our circle of ladies who are supportive. They get they're not there with you, they're doing their own thing. But when we talk to each other, we know exactly what we mean. It's like being in a group where you're all going on the same journey, but you witness different things and you come back and you talk about how wonderful the journey is with each other. Lots of support. And I facilitate it. I'm not directing. It's going to be somewhat different than most of the other kind of structured things. But I don't want to go into it too terribly much because there's emails on it. If you're on the email list, you'll see all that. Yes, if you haven't gotten it open yet today, there's a thing in there today. Doors are open for registration. If you're interested and you kind of already know how I work and you're ready to jump into a thing with me, the lessons of the next 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 3 p.m. live lessons here on YouTube about learning to love your shadow. So you can see what is she talking about? Fun and fascinating. This is bizarre. Everybody else says it's scary as hell. So I want to really kind of drill down and let you know that there is a way to do this without having to scare the heck out of yourself. Because I'm totally against all of that. And I'm totally for healthy, energetic releasing and doing so in a way that feels good. Because that's kind of what this all is about, right? So that's why I came up with all of that. That's why Spirit downloaded it to me, was because the next 3 months are going to be really interesting. And I wanted to create a space, not just for y'all. I mean, maybe it's selfish, it's for me too, so that we can all have a place to come to navigate the shadow without having to swim out there in the ocean alone trying to do it. So if we can do it together, that makes things so much better. Um, but you'll get all that information in the newsletter this week if you've not already got it. Also, again, join me for the classes that start tomorrow at 3 right here on the YouTube. If you want reminders and the replays like right in your inbox, you can go ahead and register for that. That's also in the emails that you've gotten. If you're not on my email list, go to soulcoachstudio.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's an email list sign up right there. And there's even one, I believe, there's a link below. So you can do it there. So there's that. This week, I do have some openings for single sessions on Friday. If you're interested, email me. I will hook up with you. And there's 2 in the morning and then 2 choices in the afternoon on Friday the 14th. I think that's it for everything going on. There's a lot going on this week, y'all. Not just cosmically, but right here if you're hanging out with what I do. So anyways, remember, stop, drop, and roll as you navigate this week and the next several months. Be in awareness. Do your meditation every single day. It'll help, I promise. Until next time, I love you so much. I will talk to you on Monday of next week for the weekly energy reading. And if you're joining me, I will see you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week for the live sessions of Learning to Love Your Shadow, which is the April free mini course. And other than that, until next time, I will see you in the vortex. I love you so much. Have a great week, y'all. Bye.